Welcome back, everybody, to Pursuit of Purpose. I'm Robbie Martin, and this is
Chuck Olaf.
And today, we have a very special guest with us. It's a special lady from the town of Lumberton, Texas. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Diane Martin.
And go ahead and tell us, what do you do, and a little bit of history about yourself.
Okay. I own HardBean coffee shops. So we have a Beaumont and a Lumberton location. And then I also own gift shops. It's called M&M Gifts. And we have a Beaumont and a Lumberton location. So that's what I do currently. I'm actually retired. I learned when I was 18 to start saving. And so if you actually invest in yourself when you're young and think that you're worth it and put money back every year, you can retire very young. And so I actually retired from my first job that I had that was 33 years. And I retired at the age of 48.
Wow, that is young for retirement. It's a fascinating thing you use that word retirement. I think you're our first guest to use it.
I think so.
And I'm going to challenge you with something. We in America invented that concept. Retirement didn't exist until America invented it. So,
if I may to reiterate that, there's not even a Hebrew word for retirement. It doesn't exist.
right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, you say retirement, but what I translate that to mean is you then begin reinventing yourself
Yes.
to your next pursuit.
Right.
Right?
So for 33 years, I ran businesses for someone else.
Yes. Now we're
For
getting
30
somewhere.
years, I ran $1 billion company. My little section of it ran a lot of money. So my little section was 52 million of the billion.
Oh, it's very
But
small.
It's just a small
just
amount.
52.
So I was like, if I can do this for somebody else, what could I do for myself?
Precisely.
So
Yes.
I went out and pursued what did Lumberton want, and resoundingly wanted a coffee shop. So that's where I started, and I opened up the first HardBean 8 years ago.
Well, and it's doing well.
It's doing well.
All right. So
Matter of fact, I will give it a plug. It was actually voted the best coffee shop in all of Southeast Texas
You got my vote.
Right.
by Beaumont Enterprise. So,
That's
yay.
very
Yes.
good. Very good.
Well, I've been to both, and that is true. Awesome coffee.
So, what sort of business were you in for 33 years?
So I retired.
Was it a retail,
It was retail.
okay.
I retired as a vice president at Stage Stores.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I had East Texas and West Louisiana as my territory.
All right. And did you go to college or anything before that?
I did. I did go to college in Houston.
Okay. So we're going to go a little further back.
Okay.
How many did you have siblings in your family?
I did. I had, my father was married several times. My mother, I had 3 brothers. All together,
Okay.
there was 11 of us.
A lot. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
That is the biggest sibling group that we've had from a guest on the show. That's really cool. So, where did you grow up? What city? What
Grew
town?
up in Houston.
Houston.
Went to high school in Houston. Went to Houston Community College for 1 year and was working for Stage at the time. And back then, it was not as easy to go to college as it is today.
Yeah.
So they were willing to put me through college. So we started that route. And then they came to me and said, "You're good enough without going to college. Do you want to get promoted now?" Yes.
Well, yes. So my curiosity is, and forgive me for the way I'm going to ask this, but for lack of better terms, would you consider your family of upbringing to be an affluent family? Were you brought up with means? Did you come
Absolutely
from
not.
a family of money?
No.
Okay. So if you would for me, since you have 11 siblings and where do you fall in that group?
I'm the youngest.
You are the baby. The baby. So from what I understand, having all the kids that I have and also being a part of a sibling group, usually us older siblings say that we paved the way for the younger one to have an easier life. What would you say to that?
They have a lot of paving to do. Because no, that did not happen in mine. Unfortunately, my dad, there's a family joke, he didn't shoot blanks. So there's been a few siblings that have come up, called me in adulthood and said, "Hey, I might be your child, your sibling."
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you asked about my upbringing, I was not brought up in a wonderful household, a financially sound household. My father suffered from bipolar, And so it was either we were really doing good or we were rock bottom, living in a car on the streets. I was taken away by CPS several times. So no, I did not have a good upbringing.
Well, and
that is not something I talk about readily. And so not a lot, I mean, a lot of people see me and they're going, oh, she's da-da-da. No. That was not my life.
well,
But
one
it
thing
is-
that it, yeah, go
I
ahead.
was just going to say, it's how I think about it is you choose who you become.
Absolutely.
You don't let your past or how you were raised define who you are as an adult.
That's beautiful.
And that's what I try to talk with all these young kids with today is like, they're like, oh, I've got this. And I'm like, so what are you going to do to overcome that?
Next. That's right.
You can't let it define you. You can't let this stamp be on your head that says, I was abused, I was this, I was this. Make who you are today.
Absolutely.
That is
That's-
the words we often use in here is the contrast between ownership and victimship or victimhood. And you're at the crossroad probably several times, and for whatever reason you kept choosing owner. I'm going to own this. I'm going to make the best of it. I'm going to do this. And it's likely because I kind of believe that we attract things in. We espouse a lot of that in pursuit of purpose, and you just kept with that spirit, it seems, and next thing you know, stage is offering you an opportunity, and then one after another. And what a great good testimony.
I always
love
learned that
it.
hard work would get you anything that you needed.
Yes.
So if you really saw something you wanted to go after, if you worked hard for it, you strived for it, you found ways to improve your knowledge, found ways to overcome the obstacles, just like obstacles come at you every single day and hardships come at you, but if you run straight at them and get through them, then they're not that hard.
Yes.
But if you stay and wallow in them and make it your badge of honor, then it's difficult to get through.
Right.
Well, we had a guest in here the other day that his motto that he and his wife for their business have adopted is into the storm. And that's very much what you're saying, that they adopted the buffalo as their mascot because the buffalo's story is that they run towards the storm.
I like that.
They don't run with it or away from it. And something that I've said and something that I teach is you can't create success tomorrow right now if you're stuck in the pain of the past.
True.
So there is no solution in the past. The solution is now. And you are an example of that. You embody that, and I'm proud of you. And thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
And I want you to know also that there's no shame in that story. So share it freely, and we appreciate that you did.
Well,
thank you. So what attracted you? I know you said that Lumberton. You looked at Lumberton, you assessed it, and you said Lumberton needs a coffee shop. Lumberton will accept a coffee shop. But what attracted you to that business? Like, what about that makes you like it?
I wanted something that I could reach out into the community, have a place where they felt like they could gather, just build. I'm like a mother, so I kind of wanted to mother people, and just kind of work with. I would see the kids get out of school and they'd have nowhere to go. They'd sit on the sidewalks, they'd hang out at the gas stations, they didn't have anywhere to go. So I was like trying to decide between a couple of different locations as to where I was going to go, and I was like, that was me how many years ago waiting on
Those
a parent
kids
to
walking
come get
around,
me.
yeah.
And I was like, how can I make a difference in those kids' lives? So that's kind of what made me open where I'm at, because I get criticized all the time because I don't have a drive-through. And that wasn't my purpose at that time. Our second location has a drive-through, but the purpose for that was for me to be centrally located in the town so that our coffee shop could be just a place of healing, a place of coming to and finding
A refuge.
a place to go, whether it be an adult, a kid, something. And I could sit here and tell you countless stories of people who have come in who it changed their life by either a message they read in the box from that day that either me or my mother wrote, or just there was one man came in, had no idea. I honestly thought I was about to be robbed. It was me and him in there.
Man.
And it was like 5 something in the morning, and I was a little scared, but I was like, no, I'm gonna go talk to this guy. I'm gonna get, because he'd ordered a coffee and he went and sit in the comfortable chairs, but he just looked rough. It was just a rough time. And so I just went over to him, and at the time we weren't busy, so I just started talking to him. And by the time we got to the end, he told me that his wife was in a hospital in Houston, and she had been given hours to live. His car had broke down. He walked to the coffee shop. He had no way to get to there to see his wife die or be with her in her last moments. And so I picked up the phone, called, made a few connections, and got him a ride to Houston, and he was able to be there with his wife.
Oh, that's
so it's just
amazing.
Little things like that. Is just finding that place.
Yeah. And despite his vehicle problems, you would have never gotten that in a drive-through.
No.
Yeah.
You can't touch.
You can't make that personal connection.
Right.
Yeah.
That and I've known your business being there for quite some time, and that is a concept I've never heard. Thank you. That's awesome. Yeah, that makes perfect sense now. Because I'm pretty sure I was one of those guys.
Sure would be nice if you had a drive-through. No.
Correct.
I get that every day.
Sure, and I'm sure most people do kind of think that way, but not when you know the rest of the story, which was the whole purpose for bringing you in. There is always the rest of the story.
There you go.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, in that little story, you mentioned something that a lot of people hearing this podcast or watching this program, they won't catch it. They won't understand what you mean. Okay. You said he read the message in the box. I know what it means because I have patronized your business. Mm-hmm. But if you wouldn't mind, tell them about the message in the box.
Sure. So when I first started, I'm big on customer service. So I wanted to find a way to thank every customer for coming in and ordering food from us. Because I believe you have to stand apart from your competitors. So I wanted to write a personal message to every single person that bought food. So I would sit down and I'd handwrite messages in all the boxes. Well, into year 2 of owning my business, my mother was in a fatal car wreck where my father died of the wreck. My mother was paralyzed and eventually worked her way back to getting use of her arms. And I would bring her up to the shop in a wheelchair. And because she could use her arms and her upper body a little bit, and then eventually legs. I mean, she's gotten full movement back of her entire body. Let me just put that out there. But I would bring her up to the shop and I would give her the boxes and I would make her look up positive quotes to write to people. And so it started to heal her because she started thinking more positively. Because not only did she just lose her house in Harvey, she lost her husband to the car wreck a couple of weeks after Harvey. She lost, her ability to work. She had worked right up till that date. So she lost all this stuff. So I had to find her to have a pursuit of reason to live. Mm-hmm. So I let her start writing in the boxes. And so now she writes in the boxes. Every chance she can get, she is to the point now where in this last year, she broke 2 hips in her back. So she keeps fighting to get better to be able to come right in the boxes. It means that much to her. At the age of 89, she'll come up there and sit in the shop and still write in the boxes.
It's her purpose.
She has her walker or her cane, but she's there.
I love it.
So she's writing in those boxes. But it might be a religious message. It might be an uplifting message. It might be an encouraging message. It's just all different kinds of messages, and it's so interesting to find out who gets that box and what that message means to that person.
Right. Because
they're all different. No two messages are the same.
Right.
And I can tell you from personal experience, having experienced the box myself and having bought them for my wife, not knowing what it was going to say inside, every time I've ever gotten one, it had a personal application. Mm-hmm. It fit the moment that I was in. And it was...
How it does that, I have no idea, but it does.
You know.
Wow.
We know.
But
God always has a hand in everything.
There you go.
But how beautiful is that? You open yourself up to this becoming a part of your service,
right,
and serving Him. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate that you do that for our community.
Thank you.
No, that was amazing. So, and of course, whether you can probably perfectly recall it, I'm curious what was in his box. Maybe we'll know one day. That gentleman's box. Yeah. It's okay. You don't have to perfectly recall it, but whatever it was, it fit the moment,
right.
And it made a difference. So, you've talked about some ownership things. Now I want to shift just a little bit. about as you kind of get to that flight vision and look down on your business, there's some things that are your favorite things and maybe some things that are your not so favorite. Maybe some are challenges that are always there. Maybe there's some that you're like, this is what I'm here to do. So let's maybe start with some of the things that are your least favorite about being a business owner and some of those, maybe the dailies and the regulars, and then we'll get to the favorite.
I probably have a weird different answer. I was used to being an executive in a company where I could get up on the phone and have a department that takes care of all that paperwork.
Yeah.
Now you are the department.
And now I am the department.
Yes.
So I guess you could say one of the luxuries I gave myself was to have an accountant. I have somebody who does my books. That is the one luxury that I give myself.
So you took your least favorite thing and made it.
I made
one of your favorite things.
Because I can just pick up the phone and she takes care of all that for me. So she is amazing.
Smart.
So least favorite, I hate doing paperwork because I'm dyslexic. So I take numbers and transpose them. So having that issue of being dyslexic, I knew that everything in my world that I needed to do in life needed to be more visual because that's where I excel. So as long as I stay in my lane and stay more visual, I rock.
Yeah.
So I do know to supplement my negative areas with somebody else who can do that. So that's my negatives is I hate doing the paperwork. I can do it.
Yes.
I just don't like doing
So
it.
owning the negatives.
Yeah.
I want to comment on something because it's an important point that you just made with that story. And it's something that I would like everyone to take note of. You don't adjust yourself for your environment. You change your world to meet you. You create what you need and want. And that's what you do. I have kids that are dyslexic. I have special needs kids also. And I would like for anyone out there who has any sort of quote unquote difference or disability to never be discouraged that they can create their world to do what they want and need it to do. There's no reason to be held back.
No, I like to look at it that it's not, God doesn't make mistakes.
Absolutely.
He created you this way. So who are you to say and label yourself as I'm this, I'm this, I'm this? No,
Yes.
what are you? What were the strengths God gave you and go flourish those strengths. So that's what I've encouraged my children, my workers, anybody that I can like have an influence on is, okay, you're not that great in that, but what are you great at?
Yes.
And let's develop that.
You take the focus away from what you're not and focus on what you are.
One of the strongest biblical components that I've studied recently, say in the last couple of years, was that concept of everybody having a strength. And we don't have to all be good at everything. And this person who is kind of teaching this says, now you understand why we have community. I don't need to do what you do well, but you know what? You're going to call me to do what I do well. And it sounds like you've done that, even in amongst what seems like we're just running a coffee shop. But you know, here's this person's good at, this person's good at. The orchestrator is the collector. I'm going to collect all this together. It seems like you've mastered that well. Maybe that goes back to your big millionaire business days. I don't know, but you definitely.
I did get a lot of good training with that company.
Yes, yes.
But they were always working on our education and helping us grow.
So you kind of just mentioned a favorite. Then the favorite is finding the talent in these folks and giving them a chance to really develop that.
I have always enjoyed finding the staff that will help love on the customers, figuratively. Through either scripture, through being a mother to them, through being a friend to them, whatever it took, but then helping that person grow. And so I've always told, I've had staff come and go over the years, and I've always told them, you're not meant to stay here forever. That's my job.
Yes.
You're meant to be in my life at this time and let me help you grow to the next level.
Wow.
So it's neat. I have some people who've gone all over the world and done things. I've got military kids that worked for me. I've got doctor. I've got photographer. All kinds of people who have worked for me. It's just amazing. I love my staff.
And they're taking a little piece of you with them. You've invested into each one of them.
Each one of them has resoundingly said they learned more about customer service working for me than they have learned anything.
Wow.
So I'm like, if you can take just that piece, then that's great.
Yes.
Well, I commend you for that. I'm very proud of you.
Well, thank you.
I'm proud to call you my friend and a member of our community.
Okay.
So I'm going to switch gears slightly. We'll go a little personal. You're married.
I am married.
And was your husband involved in your business at the start? Was he a part of it?
He is always a part of it on the backside. He is, you know how you say you have that opposite. He is my rock. He is my support. He's my listener. If something breaks, he's there. But he's the one who has to make the money so I can do the coffee shop. I mean, when I retired, I did take my retirement and, invest it and all of that. And I used to make a whole lot more money than my husband made. And when I came home to retire, it was like, we're going to be living off my salary? Yes, sir, we are. But, I mean, he does well. He makes a good salary. And without his salary, I couldn't do the coffee shop because he holds the fort down. But was he there on a day-to-day basis? No, because he has to work his job.
All right. And so, but he has been supportive.
Very.
And as you said, without his support, this would not be as far as it's been.
Yes.
Right. So if you had the choice, if you could make a choice looking back from where you sit now, would you do this over again? This coffee shop adventure, which grew into M&M gifts and everything else?
Yes, I would.
Good.
I would.
I love to hear that. And undoubtedly, your business and your plans have evolved. I mean, just from hearing your story, do you consider yourself a success?
I think I'm always a work in progress.
There's nothing wrong with that answer.
There's always something you want to improve, something you want to do better. If there's not, then you're not growing. So I always want to find things to improve us, do better at. Success? I mean, yeah, we're successful. We are looking at opening future ones. So yes, we're successful.
Well, I want you to hear me say this. I consider you to be a success.
Well, thank you.
And I want you to also know that I've never met a success that believed they were finished.
Okay. That's understandable because you're always striving to see what's around the corner next that you can work on.
We have had in these chairs people from the age of 22 who are entrepreneurs to 70 who are entrepreneurs. And then just yesterday, we had a gentleman in that chair that was 94 years old.
Awesome.
And I have not yet met any of them who reflected on themselves as finished. So you are amongst the successful.
Well, yes, you are. And you use, and I know you probably use it as common language, but we really try to be listeners here. And you use the future tense phrase, which is want to. That means that implies to us there's things to come. And there was a want to a decade or 2 decades ago. That want was already there. That's the creative side of us that Robbie was mentioning. We are creators. It has to start up here in the mind. So who knew that seed was in there all these many years later? But there was a want to. And it wasn't, and likely wasn't necessarily to sell coffee. It was to use an outlet, and just happened to be what my community would supply. They wanted it, we could supply it.
Right.
But I'm going to use that to make a difference. And as a former coach, I used to tell these players, I said, it's not about basketball. It's a silly sport, but I'm going to help you become adults using this sport. And you just mentioned all of these aspiring young people that have come through your shop as employees and went on to amazing things in their personal lives. And they referenced, though, that fire that got stoked with all of those ideas. So I congratulate you for that. That's the want to. That's the going for. And that's where you can't live in two worlds. If want to is future tense, well, I can't live in the past. And that was your message to our listeners today.
You don't want to live in the past. It's already happened.
It's already happened, and I cannot traverse time and go back.
Right.
I can't do that.
Well, since we're talking about the past, let's look just a little bit ahead.
Okay.
And this question, it may seem strange after the conversation we just had, but what do you fear?
Failure, rejection.
Can you explain? What does that look like for Diane Martin? What is failure?
When I upset a customer. Because I try not to.
Now, do y'all hear that? Her example of failure is one interaction gone bad with a customer. But I would wager that even if that interaction did take place, that you would probably make it your life's pursuit in that moment to fix it.
I always say that you're going to fall, you're going to fail, but it's how you pick yourself back up and make it right. So, yes, I hate upsetting a customer. I will lose sleep over upsetting a customer. But it's what I do above and beyond to make it right. Because we can't make everybody happy. I know that. But it's like, what can I do to make them happy if I mess up?
Yes.
Well, I want you to hear something, okay? If you can, in your mind, play back that answer you just gave, and here's the purpose for that question.
Okay.
The purpose for that question is to reveal someone's heart.
Okay.
When you ask them that question, they're going to automatically tell you what is their heart. And you just gave it. Your heart is to serve your community. And that you would feel personally responsible for the dissatisfaction of those you serve.
Correct.
Even though you don't have control over their satisfaction at all times.
And what lives in
I'm
our
not there 24/7.
That's right. And what lives in our heart is the most valuable. So my fear is that most valuable thing to me will be compromised. And it could be your relationship with your kids or definitely your customer. Yes. And I'll do everything I can do. It's going to probably happen just by naturalness, but we're not going to stay that way. And I was going to ask, but you beat me to the question, what is your developed response to fear? Oh, and especially when fears come to fruition, like, it just happened. And it's that whole responsive thing, contacting the customer. How can we do it better? How can we make this right?
Right.
Well, you just embodied the behavior of a person of the highest character and greatest integrity.
Well, thank you.
So, no, thank you. I'm very proud to hear that is what you are and who you are. That's a beautiful thing. So, what separates a successful business owner, entrepreneur from a failure in your mind?
Well, I can only speak to a couple of categories because that's all I've owned my own business in. I don't know if y'all know this or not, but for every 10 coffee shops that open up, 8 fail.
I didn't know that. That's a fascinating stat.
And when I went to the Lamar Business College to have them help me, I'll give them a little plug here. They had me help me write my business plan. And the person there highly encouraged me not to open the coffee shop because 8 out of 10 of them
Because
failed.
of this stat.
And I left his office, shook his hand, and said, "Watch me succeed."
Nice.
Because I will not fail.
I love that.
too.
So that's just how I kind of look at things. Is as an entrepreneur, one, you have to be there. You have to know what's going on in your business. You have to work your business. And unfortunately, so many people buy coffee shops and open them, and they think they can just hire a manager and go off and collect their profits. Well, there's not a lot of profits in coffee. You have to adapt, overcome, create new things. And as an entrepreneur, if you're not there in the business at least a couple of days of the week, you don't know what's going on.
So you got to be there in the business, in the moment. Yes, be present.
Be able to adapt and change as you need to go through those things.
Who's your biggest competitor?
Is it fair to say no one?
It's
Because nobody does what I do.
so you.
Other
are your
people
biggest
serve
competitor.
coffee. Other people serve lunch. Other people make cakes.
That's absolutely
Other
right.
people do all the things that I do, but they don't do it at the customer service level that I do it at. And so I pay homage to Starbucks. People think I hate Starbucks. It's not true. I will actually go to a Starbucks and get a coffee. But I know people are like, what? No. But hey, if it wasn't for them, they make drinking coffee cool.
Yeah.
They spend all the millions of dollars on advertising, and I just come through and
Right on the
do
back.
it my
of
way.
That's right.
So it's not that my way's better or different. It's just how we treat our community and be involved with our community as to why we are different.
It's how you love your people.
Do you compete with yourself?
I mean, I always want to beat last year, but that's not always possible in business. So you have to know what your goals are for that year, what you can attain, and what your focus is for the year. Because if you lose focus, you can't make any of those goals.
Is there anything about your near daily challenges to say, this one I have down pretty well? And like I tell folks often, I'm explaining anxiety, and I'll say, every time you get a little hungry, that's actually anxiety. But you solved it for decades, so you don't even really concern yourself over it. But is there something that comes around, maybe as a wife or a mom or a business owner, to say, that's the one that always requires just a little bit more? We'll say maybe that's your most competitive moment of the day.
Probably being more present for my children.
Okay.
Because I was always so driven at work, which is another reason why I strived to retire when I was younger, is I wanted to be home more for my kids. And I was traveling a lot with my other job. And so literally waking up in a hotel room, different ones, different days, not knowing what city I was in.
Yeah.
What kind of car am I driving today? What rental do I have? That I wanted to be present, to see my kids' ball games, to be able to go to the schools, to be able to be there. So I know that's kind of probably a weird answer that you weren't expecting, but that's where I always tried to do better.
So if you have parents that work in your company or companies and your businesses, is knowing that about your former life when your kids were coming up, is there anything that you do different to encourage them to maybe handle that particular circumstance of their life a little bit better?
I always try to work around their schedules, and I tell them football games don't get missed, kids' dance recitals, whatever we have to work around, you need to be there.
Yes.
Because you don't get that time back.
Yes.
These kids are going to grow up so fast, and once they hit past 10 years old to 12, they don't need you anymore. So you need to be at those games or need to be at those dance things, because they need to see you're there. They may not need you like holding them, helping them through everything, but they need to see a parent in the stands.
Right.
So that's kind of why I got off the road too, is so that I could be there. My son played basketball, and I wanted to be at his basketball games. My other son did band. I wanted to be at his games.
Right.
And my daughter did band, and I wanted to be there. I didn't want to be off chasing somewhere. So the neat thing is all of my kids worked for me at some point, but there is a trick to having your children work for you and still get along. And that's don't work the same schedule as they do.
Oh, nice.
Let someone else tell them what to do.
Exactly.
Yes.
Don't be there. Don't be there with them 24/7, or you won't get along at the end of the day.
A famous guitar player from one of our famous Texas bands, ZZ Top, and Billy Gibbons once said, "How did y'all make it all these years?" He goes, "Oh, different tour buses." Yeah. We don't all ride the same bus anymore, so we don't have to be there at the shop at the same time.
Right.
But yet we still know who each other are and how each other are, which is good stuff.
Right.
So, back to you. What do you want to do next? All these thinking questions, huh?
Yeah, I would like to travel more.
Okay, that's fair.
I would like to get to a point where, I do some traveling, but I would like to see the world a little bit more, because I am getting older. I am quote unquote retired, and would like to get out more and experience more.
Yeah. Well, that's really good. And you're building something, and whether you think about it this way or not, you are building something that has the potential to live beyond you. And especially with all the lives you touch, that builds a legacy. What do you see as your legacy? Can you talk about that a little bit? What are you building that will stay behind? Well, you already said you're investing into each employee, and that ones have come through and left. They come back and tell you how much you invested into them and helped them understand about customer service.
Right.
So that's a part of it. That's permanent. They'll teach their kids, everyone they contact.
Right.
Think about it in that way.
I guess as my legacy left behind, it would just be a place where people could go, like, and they'd remember, hey, do you remember HardBean? We used to hang out there, or we used to go there and meet. I mean, we have meetings from everything from Bible studies to first dates. We've had people get married in the shop.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
We've had several weddings in the shop, and there was a few weddings I didn't even know were happening. I guess there was a JP sitting at the table marrying a couple of people at the table. I was like, wait, let me get a cake.
That's great.
It is.
So I just think as a place that the community could go to and rely on.
A place of refuge.
Yeah.
You want to be remembered that way. That's good.
You know,
That's wonderful.
The idea of the wedding, especially the JP sitting at the table, and I'm going to go back to the message in the box. I'm like, that's going to be a special box, because let me tell you what's about to happen, friends. If this is your first, you know this will make so much sense. If not, open it 10 years from now.
Right.
So you've been through a lot. You've quote unquote retired from one thing. You've brought your family from its start to not finish, because it's never finished, but to adulthood. Mm-hmm. The birds have, almost all left the nest.
Almost.
And do you still have dreams?
Yes.
The traveling you talked about.
But obviously, I have dreams to want to not be a workaholic all the time. It's probably not what you're expecting to hear, but I am a self-proclaimed workaholic. I work 14-hour days, 6 days a week.
If you love it, that's
but
okay.
I love what I do. But I love my family too. So if I have dreams, it's to spend more time with my family.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's beautiful.
I love going to church. I love my family, and I love what I do. The coffee shop, the gift shops, they're all who I am, but they don't define me. My family defines me. So that's
good.
One day maybe grandkids. I'd love to be a grandpa like you, or a grandma. But that'll be one day down the road.
You'll get there.
Yeah.
Wow, I really appreciated every answer you've had, and we're getting close to wrap up.
Okay.
There is a couple of more things that I want to ask. Are you currently hiring?
That's a hard one, because
Are you looking for staff in any way?
I get asked that all the time. And I am very fortunate that when I hire someone, especially when I hire younger kids with the schools, I get to keep them usually all the way through college.
Wow.
And that's kind of unheard of in a fast food restaurant.
Yeah, that's
usually
insane.
it's a revolving door. So I don't always have openings.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
It says a
Especially,
lot about the
the whole
environment.
pandemic time, the whole thing we went through, and everybody was like, I can't find help. And I'm like, I'm fully staffed.
Yes.
Because, during the pandemic, it was, everybody was shutting down. And I was like, oh, no, we're not. We couldn't let people in the door. So we found a way to get the business to go out to them.
You adapted and overcame.
We added an app system where they can bring it up. We'll walk it out to their car. But I had 3 women who were single, a couple of them had children, and how are they going to have an income?
Right.
If I shut the doors and let the government take over and follow, that guideline, which so many restaurants did, those women wouldn't have a way to feed their families and take care of themselves. So we found a way to work, and we found a way to get around those things and keep the doors open, as per se. Couldn't let customers through the door, but we'd find a way to go out and take it to their car.
Right.
So
I love it. So let's do a little time travel.
Okay.
And so let's go back in time. You can go 20, 25, just depending on how far you want to go. But you're going to get an opportunity here to speak to your former self, which in a way you're kind of speaking to that age group now. Yeah. But to say, if I could speak to my former self, is there any advice that you would give yourself back then that you came to appreciate over time? Like, I kind of wish I knew it then.
Probably to slow down and enjoy the moment a little bit more, read more of the details. Because I am so fast to go through things. I work very fast. I move fast. So I'm like, slow down and enjoy it a little bit more.
Yeah. Good. That's good advice.
That's a really good message.
Yes.
I like that. That's, in fact, of all our guests, you're the first one who said, slow down and enjoy the moment.
Probably because I need to preach it to myself.
Well,
It's good advice,
I'm
even
trying
if
to
it's to
learn.
yourself.
Right.
It's really good.
Right. As a matter of fact, that is the
You
definition.
asked me to go back.
That's
What would I want to
right.
do 25 years ago? Slow down and enjoy it more.
Well, that is the definition of advice. I'm taking something I need because otherwise, I already had it, and so I still need. And why would I not need to keep hearing it?
Yeah.
And we have this idea that, well, we talked about success earlier, and I know I've had these conversations, and I'm sure all three of us had at some point. Success had some like an end, like a campaign. Like no, success is a program.
You just keep driving. You just keep driving.
I may be refining the program, but it's just to keep it moving forward. Right, keep driving. Yeah, it's not a conclusion. So, and we press real hard at Pursuit of Purpose to help folks understand, whether we're in front of an audience of, say, just staff members. We keep it moving forward. It's not a got there and don't ever have to go any further. Absolutely not. So yeah, your story's all about that. Moving forward.
That's what you have to do in life.
Indeed. Right. Because bad times, tough times, challenges will come.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we've had a great time having you today, and I have two things left as we close.
Okay.
Number one is, how do people become your customers? We talked about your hiring. You don't need any help right now. But would you like some business?
Always looking for good people, but right now I have no openings.
Okay.
I'll just say that. How do people?
So how would someone find you? Where would we, if I wanted to say, do you do birthday cakes,
Of course.
wedding cakes? You
Yes.
talked about that. Do you cater?
Yes, we do.
So how would we get in touch with you out there in our participants and viewing audience? How would they get in touch with you if they wanted to
can
make an
either
order?
Call one of our shops, which we are listed on Facebook. We're listed on we have our own website. Listed in Google. All
Do you
of
want to tell
those
them what it
things.
is?
HardBean, Lumberton, or HardBean Silos, and then our gift shops are the M&M Gifts, Beaumont or Lumberton. So you can reach us at either one of those, either on Facebook. We've got our phone numbers out there. Call us. We do a lot of personal catering for events. We cater weddings. We cater business office parties. I've never once had to advertise that. Word of mouth goes around, and once they taste the food, they're like, "Oh, Mama cooked this. I want more of this." So yes, we are not just a coffee shop. We, as he said, we do caterings, we do cakes, we do special events. Our gift shop does decorating of events. We do balloon arches. We do gift baskets. I mean, if you have a gift you need, it's very easy just to call up one of the gift shops and ask one of the girls and tell them you have a budget. They'll put a beautiful basket together for you to give to your client, and all you had to do was pay for it. So yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you. So the last question I'm going to ask you, and then we're going to wrap it up, is what advice would you have? You spoke to yourself already.
Okay.
So what advice would you have for a young version of you in the modern world who wants to start an entrepreneurial pursuit? What
Okay.
advice would you have for
Well,
the,
actually, with the HardBean, it's not necessarily a franchise; it's a co-op. I actually get that opportunity.
Really?
Yes, because I help when the new owners, franchisees, or whatever you want to call them, come in. I get them at the beginning stages with the owner, and they'll call me and go, "Well, what would you do with this, and how would you handle this?" So I actually get to do that on pretty much a monthly basis. So it depends on what they're looking for. I always try to tell them, be conscious of your money. You got to know how much you have to spend. Don't get so much in your head that you go take a bunch of loans out that you can't afford to pay back. And that's why so many businesses fail, is because they go spend all this money and like redoing a building or redoing a facility, and they didn't negotiate with their landlord that the landlord could have paid part of that was part of their build out cost, or different things like this. So I'm always trying to help the new owners within coffee shop businesses of going, okay, this is how you need to handle this is how you need to handle that. And if you will negotiate these things, you won't have to borrow as much, and then you don't have to pay as much back in the long run, and then you'll be more successful. So,
Absolutely.
I guess, I don't know if I answered your question properly or not, but
Be money conscious.
Be money conscious of what you have to spend, and don't have such big ideas that your money won't reach those. So maybe in the first year you can reach this goal. In the second year you can bring your second idea on. Don't try to throw it all at it the first time that you open, and then you're so far upside down you can't deliver on what you've opened. So take it in steps.
Take the small steps. The reach the accomplishable goals and celebrate that.
Right. But always make sure to make those goals.
Yeah.
Because if a goal is not written down, it will not be achieved. Nobody else will help you achieve that goal if you don't have goals written down. And it may be a goal about your business that's so lofty that you can't personally meet it yourself. So if you don't have your whole team behind you reaching those goals, you'll never reach them.
That's great.
That is.
It's phenomenal advice. Chuck, do you have anything while we close?
No, so just I appreciate you. What an awesome story. I mean, I love the reinvention. That is a big part of what, that's why you were invited, because you were, and then shifted and then became again. And I love it that you've never lost that fire of inspiring, everybody around you, but it's definitely the next generation, because they're coming and they need it. And what else to give them but wisdom and then opportunity, and you're doing that, and I appreciate that. Thank you for being our guest.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Miss Diane, is there anything you'd like to say in closing? Anything you'd like to leave the audience with? And there's no pressure, but if you do, I mean, you have 30 minutes to speak for yourself. I'm kidding.
Don't be afraid to reach for what you want in life. Don't let somebody tell you that you can't achieve something without trying.
I love it.
Because there's so many people in life that'll tell you, like my son, he'll never walk. He walks, and he walks just fine. I had another child that it was like, he needs to be special ed. No, he doesn't. Find a way around it. Don't just accept what people tell you or label you. Find a way to be successful in what you have.
I love it. That's great.
What I do.
That's great. Well, I also want to express my gratitude for you being here with us. Thank you so much for allowing us into your world and bringing your world to our viewers and listeners. And thank you for making us a part of the pursuit of your purpose. And again, I'm Robbie.
I'm Chuck.
And this is
Diane.
Thank you all for joining us today, and we'll see y'all next time.